I'm not totally giving up on the Chicago Cubs, but their loss last night to the Arizona Diamondbacks, their third loss in a row, and sixth loss in 8 games, really does make me stress about, can this team actually make the playoffs? In 2019, Cubs lost 9 in a row, and that is what kicked them out of the playoffs, and they were otherwise in a prime position to make the playoffs. And then they lost 9 in a row. 9 in a row. Could that repeat this year? I'm getting stressed that the answer is yes. Because the Cubs are no longer in a position that they once used to be in. They used to be 76-64. Now they're 78-70. The Arizona Diamondbacks have caught up to them significantly. Now they're 77-72, only a game and a half behind them. And the Miami Marlins are 76-72. So they could go ahead and steal this from the Cubs. And the Cubs don't control either tiebreaker. The Cubs only control one tiebreaker against the Giants. They lost them against the Phillies, against the Reds, the Marlins, and the Diamondbacks. I show you my screen if I was screencastifying it, but I'm not. I'll probably do a bit of a screencast later to identify the Cubs' odds and all that. But this is not a comforting position to be in. The Cubs are also 5.5 games out of the NL Central title. There are points in the season where they were only a game and a half out, quite recently. Now they're 5.5 games back because the Brewers actually did good against the Yankees in other series as well. The Brewers were able to win. So the Cubs clearly don't control their own destiny for the NL Central title, and their chances of actually getting the NL Central title, which at one point was hovering around 18%, now is down to 3%. They have a 3% chance of winning the division, and their odds of making the playoffs have decreased from 77% to 69%. Can the Cubs still do it? Yes. But at this point, they would need to get closer and closer to the Brewers, which this late in the season, I really think that there's a time for. I'm not saying that I'm totally giving up on hope, but I'm saying that, realistically, the odds are stacked against them in terms of actually making it in. I think that the Cubs are ultimately going to be able to set up for something like the 6th seed, which would then involve them taking on the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee. Not exactly comforting to think about. So, the thing is that realistically, either way, I don't think the Cubs can get past the wild card round. When the Cubs had a chance to be the 3 seed and the 4 seed was also realistic, well, 4 seed would probably still be against the Phillies, and I think the Phillies are settling for getting at the 4 seed. I used to think though that the Cubs, could maybe get the 3 seed and then take on a team like the Diamondbacks or the Reds, which I was slightly more comfortable in. That can't really happen now, and while I'm not concerned with the Reds sneaking in or the Giants, I do have concerns that the Diamondbacks or the Marlins, if we're taking them on. But it's probably going to be either the Phillies in Philadelphia or the Brewers in Milwaukee. And they're probably going to win the series, especially the Phillies, because the Phillies won 5 out of 6 games against the Cubs. A playoff berth is better than nothing, but I really hope to make it to the divisional round for the first time in 6 years, and I think I've lost faith in that happening. I just think that the Cubs are going to be a team where I could get a nice 2023 playoff shot from them, but it won't be comforting, and probably the only reason why I even buy that is just so I can rub it into Mets and Yankees fans who are almost certainly going to experience no playoff joy this year. Mets are, what are they, 66-79 or something like that? They ain't making it. And the 74-73 Yankees sounds good on paper until you realize that they're playing in a very competitive American League where honestly, even in the National League, it'll be very hard for them at this point. But in the American League, they're probably going to need, about 89 wins to make the playoffs this year, which would require the Yankees to win like every single game, and they don't have a lot of tiebreakers either. So, Cubs are really a team that is worth stressing about. I just don't know if they can do it. The odds are better than what they once were, but again, like the Cubs cannot afford to collapse, and they seem to be collapsing in on themselves, and they have to revive themselves at some point.